What's up, everyone? This is Jay from Revolution Radio. So, I had an interesting conversation with some of my libertarian friends today. Um, we were talking about immigration, and namely the wall. And most of them, surprising to me, were for the wall. And I said, yeah, but think of the taxes alone. The wall is going to cost billions of dollars. And they said, yeah, but we need to do something about all the immigrants coming over. And I said, yeah, okay, sure, maybe. You know, but the wall is not the answer. And they said, well, actually, most people at the border say it'll help tremendously. I said, of course they say that. They're told to say that. Here's proof that it won't. Um, most people from Southern America or Central America can pay a coyote about 2 grand to smuggle them into America, right? So let's say their wall works and it's impenetrable. You can't get past that wall. Too hard to get in. Well, you simply go to some place like Mexico City, you buy a plane ticket to Montreal for about $1,000, and you spend $300 to $400 on cab fare to take you to the northern border of America, and you get in that way. You even save money. Well, don't they need visas? No, no. Canada has open borders. What are we going to build a northern wall? They spend billions and billions doing that? Yeah, so they said, yeah, but something must be done. I'll agree with you. I said, liberals like to say we need to let them in and provide housing and relocation and all of that. And I agree. We actually should, constitutionally. We should let the refugees in. And in fact, the refugees themselves know that our Constitution supports them entering our borders without any punitive measurement. The Protocol of 1967. It's our Constitution. Look it up. Section 31, I believe. Um, and a lot of them actually are aware of that, even though most Americans aren't. And you say, well, who's going to pay for that? Well, we have um, the Office of Refugee Relocation. They're funded quite well, about a $500 million. So there's ways to make it happen. But the problem is that's where the liberals stop talking about it. Because the reality is we have to do something about it. And not exactly call me a humanitarian, call me liberal, but it's not the immigrants coming over here that I worry about. It's why they're coming over here. And if we continue to let the area that they're fleeing be filled with criminals and drug dealers and cartels, we're going to let that spread, and then we have a much bigger problem. And again, my libertarian friends disagreed with me, but had to understand that, okay, well, what would you do? They asked me. And I said, honestly, we have to look to a time when this wasn't a problem. Not as much of a problem. We don't even have to go that far back, about 4 years ago, when immigration was actually pretty low. What did we do then? We funded them. We funded the Northern Triangle. We helped their military. We helped their police. With what? With money. That's all we do. We trust Nicaragua, um, Honduras, El Salvador. We trust them to choose their officials and their representatives, and we give them their money. Okay. So my libertarian friends are like, that's it. Then we just walk away. I said, yeah. Yeah, but it's not our problem, they said. And I said, well, that's where you're wrong, because it is your problem. Maybe not yours specifically, but yours as an American, it most definitely is your problem. You see, all of this started in the Reagan years. Not many people have heard of the Mayan genocide, although they should. It was a pretty disgusting, horrific act that happened in the 80s. And it's where the Guatemalan military and government uh, massacred and slaughtered their own people, people who spoke out against them. They complained about the way they were treated. They complained about corruption. They complained, and validly so, by the way, when you look into it, but they complained about income inequality, which is something we still fight all over the world. But and the wrongful imprisonments and things of that nature. Well, so okay, well, why is that our problem? Well, John Bolton, he helped as well as our government train, fund, and supply the Guatemalan military and archaeologists, and had found these mass graves, 200,000 people slaughtered. And I'll take just one step back. I should say the other issue was that pictures started coming out around the time of these atrocities. And our government, as well as the Guatemalan government, said, oh, well, that's the guerrillas. That's the resistance. Look what they did to their own people. Seems kind of stupid. Why? Because, for one, they were poorly funded. So they didn't have a lot of bullets, and a lot of these people were killed with bullets. And, take a whole group of people. You don't have a lot of ammo, and you're fighting an army. Why waste your ammo on civilians? But furthermore, they said, oh, and these are the people who were the resistance. And that's why they were killed. So there's two stories, and, they put them together. But in the 90s, archaeologists went to these mass graves, and they found that the weapons used were the same ones that we were supplying the Guatemalans with. So it was a Guatemalan military, and they found that most of all these people were not only the guerrillas who were fighting, and not even fighting, but resisting. It was more of a resist than an assault, which is really important to pay attention to, because it was the Guatemalan military who went into the hills after these people, and they were standing their ground. But anyway, the majority of the people that were found were elderly and children and women, and they had their hands tied behind their backs and killed execution style. It's really messed up. And America played no part as far as the punishment. The Guatemalan military did. They were held responsible, and in fact, part of a treaty agreement, the Guatemalan military was forced to disband, as well as other military groups in the Northern Triangle, and police. So there was no form of law, we'll say, in that region. And that's about the time that America moved in MS-13. And they trained a gentleman by the name of Ernesto Doralis, who I did use gentleman, you can't see my fingers, but with quotation marks. He was trained in the schools of America. He taught, he was taught how to legitimize MS-13. That if MS-13 was to be a force, they needed members who were lawyers, politicians, doctors, sheriffs, people of weight. And who taught him that? Well, the Americans. Now, my friends who had not heard about this, they said, well, okay, whoa, why would we support the Guatemalan military genociding their own people, for one? Number two, why would we then support MS-13? It's simple. Namely, Cuba. We felt like Cuba was getting a foothold in Central and Southern America, and we wanted to fight a war with Cuba by proxy. We were hoping to garner the favor of Guatemala so that we could then have them attack Cuba for us. That was the whole point. We didn't really understand the the obstacles that was the Guatemalan people and how they were being abused in their country. So we didn't see that coming. Nevertheless, we trained them how to deal with it very in a very brutal manner. Some people believe that we did that on purpose and that we actually sabotaged them so that we could move MS-13 in because then we train with our trained leader there, Ernesto Dialis, or aka Satan. We could send a more of a, a ragtag team in to fight Cuba. I don't personally believe that. I think that's a little far fetched, but I do believe that one of our goals was to destabilize that region and to cause havoc for Cuba by proxy, meaning they would be unable to really get a foothold into that area and to attack us. I really think that that was it. I can't prove it, but regardless, that's what happened. Um, so yes, we have a huge role in what happened, and we have to acknowledge that. If we don't acknowledge that, and we don't understand that the reason why Venezuela recently told us, no, there's no coup, get the F out of Venezuela. And majority of Venezuelan people do not want us in there. Is because of what happened in Guatemala, because of what happened in Chile, because of what happened in Honduras. We have messed with Central and South America so much that people are terrified of us, eh, even if they have a legit fear, they would rather just run to America. They don't want the American government involved in their countries. To give you an idea how much we've messed with their countries, the only two countries I can think of that we have not been involved with their government in some form is Costa Rica and Belize. Those are the only two. Now, we have to deal with why the refugees are coming here. And I first want to say, too, talking with my libertarian friends, they said they don't want these people here because they're dangerous and the areas that they're coming from is dangerous and violence. And, we don't know how many of them are coming across that are violent. And I said, okay, fair enough, I guess. But we know who has weapons. We know their intentions. Um, we know this because we know where they want to stay. They want to stay with their family. Um, Usually, if you're part of a gang syndicate, you don't really, unless you're the mafia, you don't really stay with your family. You have other places, and believe it or not, at least under Obama's government, there were a lot of check-ins if you were on a visa, or if you were awaiting a refugee trial. So it doesn't really add up. Not to mention the numbers don't add up. Uh, in fact, immigrants commit less crime than natural-born citizens. It's just a stat. It's just facts. I can't change that the way it is. We are more likely to cause problems than they are. Then they again said, yeah, but I don't know if they're refugees. They probably just want to come here for a better life. And I said, but didn't you just say that where they're coming from is dangerous and you don't want any part of it? Sending your family down there would scare the S out of you? So what would you call them then if they're fleeing that area? Because of the violence that you said. You're terrified of it, but they're not refugees all of a sudden? So their area where they're coming from is violent and awful. But once they cross our border, they're not refugees anymore? Now they're just looking to make a buck off the American system, is what you're saying? Yeah, it doesn't add up. We do have to understand all of the ways that we have impacted their life. And we have to do more than just say, let them stay here. Open our borders. Which, by the way, no Democrat, legitimate progressive or Democrat that I've heard is incentivizing opening the borders. No one has pushed that. I hear it all the time on Fox News, and it's not true. I run in a lot of liberal circles. None of them said we should open the border. But we do have to come up with a plan. Because these people, this isn't home to them. The reason why they're here. Not only because it's safer, but Mexico is a little bit safer. Now understand the cartels and MS-13, they can still follow you into Mexico, and that was a big part of why most of them turned down those visas. It wasn't about the entitlements that we hear that they want in America. No, it's about safety. And they're not safe in Mexico, and that's why they want to come here. But their first home is still their country. Why do they come here? Well, where do you go when your house burns down? A tornado takes down your house. Where do you go? You go to your parents' house. You go to your family's house. They have family that lives here. Over 78% of the migrants, the refugees coming here, have family up here. And that's why they're coming here. It's the only place they can think of that's safe. We have to help them rebuild their military, their police, and honestly, I think we could learn a little bit from the EZLN in Southern America. I think that we could learn from some of these libertarian socialist groups like them who have dealt with MS-13 and the cartels and have fought them off. But the most important thing to learn from them is to leave them alone. With every country that's having a problem, we need to leave them alone. We should fund them, we should trust the people to vote for who they want, and that's it. We need to stop trying to make a situation worse or better for us by other people's tragedy, which is what we often do. Whether it's Syria, Iran, Vietnam, or Honduras. We get involved and we try to sway influence, and we need to stop. I mean, even in probably good ways, or however, Saudi Arabia, Israel, we don't ever just fund something. We don't ever say, look, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, we effed up horribly. We ruined your government. We destabilized your country for the last 3 decades. We are going to help you financially, and we're walking away. But that's what we need to do. We need to stop thinking that we have some sort of better system, because we don't. In fact, if cancer was contagious, America would be full of disease. Everywhere we touch, we spread destabilization and death. There's very few countries we've actually helped. Even when called to help, we rarely do. And only if we can make a profit off of it. So that's how we're going to fix the immigration problem. The first thing that we all need to do as Americans, though, is research. Look, don't trust me. It's fine. I implore you to look into what I'm saying. Understand that some of the things on the Mayan genocide are really hard to find, and you will have to dig. Even doing research for this episode, I had to do some digging because I knew my facts were right, but it had been so long since I had refreshed myself that I wanted to make sure that I was being as honest as I possibly could. But that's what we need to do ultimately, and understand that it is our problem. It's a problem not because of the people who are fleeing a violent situation, but for the cartels and the violence that could spread, we should definitely take care of the people and secure the people, but we also need to stop the violence. And I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that a Republican hasn't gotten behind fighting that violence. It's almost like we do support MS-13 even now. Now, and I do want to be clear. I don't think I was. We did put Ernesto Diaz in ahead of MS-13, and MS-13 is an American gang, and we moved him down there, and blah blah blah. But we cut off ties quite a while ago. To be fair, I think. The fact that we aren't supporting some kind of counter military action against MS-13, it is kind of weird, to be honest. I mean, there's not a war we don't love, and that would be one hell of a war. I mean, that would be, you know, warming out MS-13 and the cartels. It'd probably be harder than Iraq. I mean, the Republicans and um, the defense contractors, they could probably get a good 2 decades of big money fighting that war. I don't know why they don't. I really don't. But anyway, that's it for this one. I'm really curious about your guys' thoughts. I'm sure I missed some stuff. I tried to do everything I could as quick as I could. It's like 1:20 in the morning here, and I wanted to get this out. So I'm curious what you guys think, and give me your input. And what do you think is a good idea? Maybe my idea is not the best idea. It's the way I feel. Um, anyway, please like and subscribe. I appreciate all the views and likes, even dislikes and comments and all of that. I really do appreciate everything. Anyway, on Facebook, I'm Jay Dillon. On Twitter, JC Show VIP. For everywhere else that you listen to podcasts or radio or anything like that, just search up Revolution Radio. Our logo is a hand holding a microphone. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.